The entire restaurant seemed to freeze when the wealthy CEO laughed and casually asked the exhausted single father when his last date had been. People expected him to blush, look away, or admit it had been years. Instead, he slowly lifted his eyes, smiled with quiet honesty, and answered that it was happening right now, with her. The laughter around them vanished. Her confident smile faded. For the first time in years, the woman who controlled billion-dollar companies found herself speechless, while every person nearby sensed they had just witnessed the beginning of something neither of them had expected. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing community. Graham Mercer had never imagined that one simple sentence would alter the direction of his life. At 38, he had long ago stopped thinking about romance. Every sunrise belonged to responsibilities. Every afternoon revolved around his 9-year-old daughter, Hazel, whose cheerful smile somehow survived despite losing her mother to a sudden illness 5 years earlier. Graham worked as a maintenance supervisor at a children's museum in Portland, where he repaired exhibits, fixed broken lighting, painted walls, and somehow managed to comfort frightened children whenever an exhibit malfunctioned. His co-workers admired him because he never complained, even when life gave him every reason to. His mornings always began before dawn, preparing breakfast, packing lunches, brushing Hazel's tangled curls, and making sure she never felt the emptiness left by her mother's absence. He promised himself that as long as Hazel felt loved, he could endure anything else. Across the city, Celeste Whitmore lived a life that magazines admired but secretly misunderstood. She had built Whitmore Innovations into one of the fastest-growing technology companies in North America. Investors praised her intelligence. Employees respected her discipline. Business rivals feared her negotiations. Yet behind the polished image was a woman who had quietly buried every personal dream beneath endless meetings and financial reports. Her parents had taught her that vulnerability invited failure, and after one painful engagement ended because her fiancé valued her fortune more than her heart, she stopped believing genuine love existed. One bright Saturday afternoon, Whitmore Innovations sponsored a charity event at the Children's Museum. The purpose was simple: renovate aging exhibits and raise funds for educational programs serving struggling families. Celeste rarely attended charity functions personally, but negative publicity surrounding wealthy executives had convinced her public relations team that her presence would help. She reluctantly agreed. Graham spent the morning repairing an interactive science display while Hazel helped volunteers decorate tables with handmade paper flowers. Hazel noticed everyone except her father seemed to have someone helping them. She quietly slipped one of her paper flowers into Graham's shirt pocket. He smiled. That tiny gesture carried more love than any expensive gift ever could. Later that afternoon, volunteers gathered for lunch inside a sunlit banquet hall attached to the museum. Seating became unexpectedly crowded, forcing strangers together. Celeste found herself assigned beside Graham. At first she barely noticed him. He wore faded work boots with fresh paint stains, rolled-up sleeves, and tired eyes that somehow still carried kindness. She assumed he was another maintenance employee. During lunch, several executives joked about how impossible balancing work and relationships had become. Someone asked Celeste when her last vacation had been. She answered that she couldn't remember. Then she looked toward Graham, trying to lighten the mood. She smiled playfully and asked when his last date had been. Without hesitation, Graham looked directly into her eyes. His gentle smile never wavered. He simply answered that it was right now, with her. Silence settled over the room. The sentence carried no arrogance. No flirtation, only quiet sincerity. He explained that sitting across from someone, sharing lunch, listening with respect, and making another person smile sounded like a date to him, even if neither person expected it. Several people laughed softly, others smiled. Celeste felt something unfamiliar, embarrassment, not because he had embarrassed her, because his definition of connection was infinitely richer than hers. For years she had attended luxury dinners costing thousands of dollars without experiencing half that warmth. Their conversation continued. Instead of asking about her company, Graham asked what had inspired her to build it. Instead of complimenting her success, he wondered whether she still found time to enjoy ordinary afternoons. Nobody had asked her questions like that in years. Most people wanted business advice, investment Opportunities, photographs, recognition. Graham simply treated her like another human being. Hazel eventually wandered over carrying lemonade. She politely introduced herself. Celeste immediately noticed the child's remarkable manners. When Hazel proudly explained that her father packed funny notes inside every school lunch because everyone deserves one reason to smile before math class, something inside Celeste quietly shifted. She spent the rest of the afternoon watching Graham interact with children, repairing exhibits that he never spoke down to anyone, that he knelt to their height, that he celebrated every tiny accomplishment. When a frightened little boy accidentally broke part of a display and burst into tears, Graham calmly helped him fix it instead of blaming him. Celeste realized leadership looked very different outside boardrooms. On Monday morning, she couldn't stop thinking about him. She surprised herself by requesting detailed information about the museum's renovation project. Officially, she wanted progress reports. Unofficially, she wanted another reason to visit. Over the following weeks, Celeste appeared more often. Each visit became less about inspections and more about conversations. She learned Graham played guitar but hadn't touched it in years because evenings belonged entirely to Hazel. She discovered he quietly paid museum admission for families who couldn't afford tickets. No one knew because he asked cashiers never to mention his name. She also noticed Graham never accepted praise comfortably. He believed kindness should remain ordinary. Meanwhile, Graham slowly realized the intimidating CEO laughed more freely away from corporate offices. She confessed she barely knew her neighbors. She admitted birthdays often passed inside conference rooms. Money had filled her calendar while quietly emptying her life. One afternoon, Hazel asked the question every adult had carefully avoided. She innocently wondered why successful people often looked lonelier than everyone else. Neither adult answered immediately, because neither could. Weeks later, Whitmore Innovations faced a financial scandal after a former executive falsely accused Celeste of manipulating charitable donations. News outlets rushed sensational headlines. Investors panicked. Social media exploded with criticism. Although innocent, Celeste suddenly found herself standing alone. Many business acquaintances disappeared overnight. Graham watched interviews during lunch breaks. He recognized exhaustion behind her composed expression. Instead of posting opinions online like everyone else, he mailed a handwritten letter. Inside he wrote that storms reveal who remains standing beside us. He reminded her that truth sometimes walks slower than rumors but always reaches the destination. The letter contained no legal advice and no business strategy, just compassion. Celeste cried while reading it inside her office, not because life felt unfair, because someone believed in her without expecting anything in return. Investigations soon proved every accusation false. The executive responsible confessed to forging financial records after attempting to hide personal fraud. Public opinion quickly reversed. Media celebrated Celeste's innocence, yet she never forgot who supported her before headlines changed. Instead of hosting another expensive corporate celebration, she visited the museum carrying sandwiches for every employee. She spent the afternoon painting benches beside Graham and dozens of volunteers. For the first time in years, reporters photographed her laughing naturally rather than posing deliberately. Months passed, friendship quietly deepened. Neither rushed anything. Hazel noticed before anyone else. She observed that her father smiled more often. She also noticed Celeste stopped checking work emails every 5 minutes. One sunny afternoon during the museum's annual family festival, Graham watched Hazel race through sprinklers with dozens of laughing children. Celeste stood beside him holding lemonade. Neither spoke for several minutes. Peace required no conversation. Finally, Graham admitted he had forgotten what happiness without guilt felt like. Celeste confessed she had forgotten happiness could exist without achievement. She realized she no longer admired Graham because he was a wonderful father. She admired him because he reminded her of the person she once hoped to become before success convinced her that vulnerability represented weakness. Meanwhile, Graham worried their worlds remained too different. She owned skyscrapers. He repaired broken exhibits. She traveled internationally. He celebrated finding discounted groceries. He feared eventually reality would separate them. Sensing his hesitation, Celeste visited the modest neighborhood where he lived. She admired Hazel's tiny vegetable garden. She complimented the hand-painted birdhouse Graham built years earlier. She laughed while helping wash dusty bicycles. Before leaving, she quietly admitted that the happiest afternoons she'd experienced in a decade had all happened there, not inside luxury hotels, not aboard private aircraft, inside an ordinary home filled with extraordinary love. that day Graham finally believed she saw him rather than his circumstances. Several weeks later the Children's Museum announced it might close one educational wing because of budget shortages. The exhibit serving low-income schools would disappear. Children who depended upon those programs would lose opportunities. Graham felt heartbroken. Without publicity or press conferences, Celeste privately funded the entire renovation. However, she refused having the building named after herself. Instead, she insisted it honor local volunteers. When museum directors objected, she explained that communities grow stronger when everyday heroes receive recognition. Graham learned about her anonymous gift accidentally. He confronted her gently. She simply smiled. Years earlier she would have wanted headlines. Now she wanted impact. That mattered more. The reopening ceremony drew hundreds of families. Children filled every hallway with laughter. Teachers cried. Parents hugged. Volunteers. No reporters understood why the CEO and maintenance supervisor stood quietly near the back instead of occupying the front stage. Neither cared. Watching children smile felt enough. As the celebration ended, Hazel slipped between them holding both their hands. She looked from one adult to the other before announcing that families sometimes begin with people choosing each other one ordinary day at a time. Neither Graham nor Celeste found words. They simply smiled through grateful tears. Months later, during another bright afternoon picnic in the museum gardens where everything had first begun, Graham handed Celeste the same folded paper flower Hazel had placed inside his pocket on the day they met. It had faded slightly. The edges were worn. He had carried it ever since as a reminder that small acts often become life's greatest treasures. Beside the flower rested a simple silver ring. There was no audience. No orchestra. No photographers. Only sunshine, children's laughter floating across the gardens, gentle summer breezes, and three hearts already connected long before any proposal. Celeste accepted with tears streaming freely down her face, not because she had finally found romance, because she had finally found home. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe genuine kindness can change someone's life more than wealth or success ever could. Their wedding took place several months later on another beautiful afternoon in the museum gardens, surrounded by families whose lives had been touched by both of them. There were no extravagant displays of wealth, only joyful laughter, handmade decorations created by children, and promises built on honesty instead of perfection. Graham never became someone different to deserve love. Celeste never needed to abandon her success to earn happiness. Instead, both discovered that love grows strongest when two people stop pretending to be extraordinary and simply choose to be present for one another every single day. The joke that once began over a simple lunch became the story they would tell for the rest of their lives, reminding everyone who heard it that sometimes the most unforgettable date begins the moment one heart truly sees another. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the greatest riches in life are rarely found in bank accounts. They are found in compassion, forgiveness, second chances, and the courage to believe that one ordinary conversation can completely change two lives forever.